It is, Reety. And you might think the light's slightly wrong, but you might be able to work out the red eye of the drongo as well, which differentiates it from the black flycatcher, and also the forked tail as well. So the flycatcher only has quite a straight tail. Sorry, the southern black. I was thinking that I was missing a word there. Southern black flycatcher. I'm also taking a little bit of time around here just in case we get any alarm calls. I've been thinking or trying to map out where the impala actually are as well. So we've got this herd here. There's a herd in the Milwaukee as well. There's a little herd by Spaghetti Junction. So if we know where these herds are, if we do hear any alarm calls, then at least we'll know exactly where to come, or at least the rough area. If they've moved on, then we should be able to catch up with them. And that's what the game is all about. So trying to work out where the predators might have gone and where they might pop up next. But it's such beautiful light this afternoon. As I say, it's lovely to see it on the backs of the impala there. Hi Trevor, welcome on board this afternoon. Trevor wanting to know if the impala are related to the African deer. They will be distantly related because they both are ruminants. So they are in the order Ruminantia. They've had a bit of a reshuffle. So it used to be artio mammals, but now they fall under Ruminantia. So all the mammals that have the four-chambered stomach, like the deer and the antelope and the cattle, they all come under that order. But then as you get further down the grouping for the taxonomic orders, then they start to split up. So these are antelope, and the deer are in a different, I believe it will be family. But I am a little bit rusty on the breakdown of the families. But what differentiates the antelope from the deer is mainly the horns. So the antelope actually have, females will have no horns in some of the species, like the antelope. But if you see the males, they have a single branched horn, and that bony core is actually surrounded by keratin, so that very hard substance that covers your fingernail. It's the same substance, and even your hair is made of keratin as well. And all sorts of animals actually have it. So the rhino horn is made of keratin, the hooves are made of keratin of the animals, the porcupine quills, the pangolin scales. So it's quite a versatile substance. It's used in a lot of different ways. Whereas the deer actually have multi-branched antlers, and these are shed, whereas the horns on the antelope are not shed. So those are the main differences between the two types of, well, the deer and the antelope. Two types of ruminants. So you might also notice that the antelope, the impala, sorry, that are in front of you, they will eat a bit from the ground, so they'll be eating grass and they'll be eating leaves as well. So they're actually one of the few antelope that will eat both leaves, they're called a browser if they do eat leaves or pods or fruits, and then grazers will eat grass and maybe forbs and things like that. Whereas some of the antelope will specialise in a certain type of food. So you will get grazers who very rarely will eat leaves, and then you get browsers who will very rarely eat grass. In times of drought you might get one or two actually swapping their diets, but not to the extreme that the impala do, which makes them so successful. And they need to be, because unfortunately impala are the size that other predators can actually eat very easily. So anything from jackal right the way through to lion, And even for the young impala, snakes can have a go. We have heard of rock pythons eating impala. Okay, well, let's carry on. Hi, Riedel. I'm not sure if I heard it correctly. Is there anything that's similar to the drongo in your country? And oh, the bongo. The bongo. I would say the Nyala is probably, I think the Nyala is the closest thing to the bongo in looks. Probably a bit smaller. But yeah, if you look at a female Nyala, it does have the look of a bongo about it. Okay. Oh, is he gonna go in there? Nope. Gone right into the bush. It was a chegra. But unfortunately, as chegras do, they like to hide in the thick bush. So up ahead we have a termite mound, and cats love lounging on these. What you're seeing is literally the tip of the iceberg. The majority of the termite nest is underground. Now that's a pretty impressive termite mound. That's taller than me. That really is incredible. Now the whole reason why they build these mounds is to help with air circulation. Now unfortunately it looks like this colony has moved on. It's either moved on or died, because there's a lot of holes that are now open, and large holes. So if it was active, those holes would be blocked up, and during the winter especially when it's cold, they'll block them up and keep the heat in, and in the summer they'll open small holes so that the air can circulate. So the air will actually get dragged in through the holes. It will go right down underground. As I say, 2/3 are actually underground, so if you can imagine that, twice again underneath. So the chambers will actually go right underground, and it goes right under to where it's nice and cool. So the air will go through those chambers into where it's cool, and then it will get circulated into the main central area where they're going to be working, and then the air will obviously warm up because they're working, they're heating it up, and because the hot air rises, it will actually be allowed out through other pores. So as the hot air rises, that's pulling in the cold air, and that's how it actually gets circulated round. So that's really very important, and that structure is extremely important for their survival. So they keep their working temperature a nice room temperature. So it's the place to be on an extremely hot day or an extremely cold night. Ooh, good question, Paula. How long does it take for them to build a termite mound? I think one like that, sure, that's got to take several years. But do you know what? I've never actually thought to look that up. I'm wondering. That might be a question for Tristan. He might know how long it takes them to build it. I think, as I say, it will depend on how big the mound is, and different species will build different mounds, different size mounds. But yeah, let's see if Tristan finds out, and I think he'll be able to give you an update on what's been going on with the leopard activity as well.
Well, on both fronts we can actually. So On the leopard activity, well, that's why I am where I am now. I've just found Mvula's tracks crossing straight towards where we are now. So I just want to check around this area and see if he's not lying somewhere here. No tracks crossing north over Buffalo's cut line, but they are heading up towards that area. So I think he might be lying somewhere close to where I had the tracks crossing over Vutlute access. So we hopefully are hot on his tail. Those tracks look really fresh on top of a lot of the vehicles, so it's a really good sign. Now, in terms of the termite mounds, well, it depends on the different species of termites, and it depends on how successful it is in terms of other predators. So what you'll find with termite mounds is that some of these mounds, there's been ones that have been dated in the central parts of Africa that are over 800 years old. Now those mounds have been used and then have been stopped being used and then recolonized, and it goes and kind of comes and goes. But at the rate that what they build is very dependent on a lot of factors. It's dependent on rain. So as soon as you get rain, you'll find termites are quite active in what they're doing. The ground softens, it's easier for them to excavate, and they can then build their mound itself. Also predation, so destruction of the mound by things like aardvark, pangolins, these kind of things that dig and destroy the mound that they have to then rebuild, will also limit the size that the mound actually gets. But theoretically they are never ending, so they grow throughout their life, and you can imagine if there's mounds that have been dated as old as 800 years that they just continually are growing them all the time. So a termite mound is never built straight away. It takes quite a lot of time. We must also remember that the queens are alive. Sometimes some of the queens, should I say, and some of the species can live up to 20 years. So it means that they'll constantly building through that 20-year cycle, and that means that the mound is always growing. So what we see, it will start off as a tiny little mound in the first sort of year, and then it just grows and grows and grows and grows. But that's the answer, is that it's almost like how long is a piece of string. It just depends on the string that you've cut, basically, and the amount of termites that are in it, how successful they've been. Now, unfortunately, no sign of Mvula that I can see coming out here. So what I want to do is I want to head to where he had his porcupine quill. Kill, not quill. Kill, quill, it's a very similar word. Now, he had a porcupine somewhere in this area. I didn't go to that sighting. I know Tara Taylor, I don't know why I keep getting that confused, and Byron both went to that sighting, so it was apparently somewhere in this particular section. So I want to just check, maybe back towards there. You never know, he might have gone and revisited it just to see what's going on, see if there's any sign of anything. It might be a popular route for him to walk, so worth going to go and check roughly where that is. But there's lots of different vehicles here that are all driving around and all trying to help us. So I think Rex has given up on those leopards around Treehouse Dam, and he's up here helping me as well. So I think what we're going to do is drop his tracker on foot close to where those tracks are, and I'm going to try and see if I can't find anything from this side. But the tracks were fresh, so I think he's somewhere between where Rex is, which is on Vutlute access, and this fire break, in somewhere in that area. That's what I reckon. It always helps when we've got a tracker with us, because they can often spot things that we can't. If they're sitting on the front left, a small track that goes over the road, it definitely helps in the long run. Now, I don't know if this is the 2-track that went in. It might be worth following this 2-track and just seeing. So sometimes with leopard tracking, it's a little bit about guesswork and where you think an animal might be, and the best trackers that are out here are those guys that have this sixth sense. So they kind of know that a leopard moves in a certain way, it will go in a certain direction, and once they see those tracks, they know, okay, this is where I need to go and check. And so a lot of it is actually guesswork, and the lie of the land, or the lay of the land, should I say, not the lie of the land, that also will determine how a leopard will move. So these big pathways that you see are in front of me, these are all good places to check for a leopard, because they'll often get onto a path and then move using that path. I can see Rexes in front of me coming straight towards me, so I don't think this leopard can be too far from us. Maybe down in this drainage on my left hand side here. I just want to check these pathways and just see if there's no tracks. Nope, I don't see any tracks here. So this is the kind of game that you've got to play with a leopard, is it's a guessing game a little bit, and you've got to try and just hope for a tiny slice of luck in amongst all of it that will lead you to this animal. At the end of the day, you're looking for a little bit of a needle in a haystack. You've got a massive area, the leopard it could be he's walked in this section. He's now could be lying down in this thicket to my left-hand side, which is going to be really tough to be able to just see a leopard under a bush here somewhere. What I'm hoping with Mvula is that he likes to sit on termite mounds, so maybe we get lucky and there's a termite mound somewhere here that he's decided to park himself on and to sit on. That would be the ideal situation. So I'm going to try and see if I can't help these guys quickly and try and help James and Rex and see if we can't get something right and find Mvula in this little haystack that we're in. And while we do that, I believe Tara has got tracks that she would like to show you.
Hi everybody, yeah, I thought we'd give it a go. So, not so much different dung for you. So we're going to do who tracked it instead. Or who left it. Maybe who left it, I don't know. But yeah, we're going to see if you can ID the track. So let me jump off and try and outline it for you. But I think you should be able to hopefully make it out. So we have, again, just keep a lookout behind me, just in case. So hopefully you're going to be able to see where I trace my finger. The light is alright. It's pretty good for tracking, but as I say, trying to get the best shadow for you guys. And then there's an extra little piece here, and then there's another foot there. So if you want to join in, and hashtag Safari Live, Facebook or YouTube with your answers. So we're going to carry on towards Treehouse Dam, but that looks quite a beautiful sunset that's going to be happening shortly, so it'd be quite nice to see if we can find a nice position to watch the sun go down. So it doesn't sound like anybody has had any luck, so we've checked twin dams, see if there's any action around there. Everyone seems to be quite relaxed around there, so it could be the leopard's concealed itself very well. So we'll do a little loop around, maybe have a look at Treehouse Dam and then go back to twin dams just in case. I'm just kind of feeling twin dams at the moment, so we shall see. Oh, Alison, straight off the bat there. Sure, well done. It was a zebra. Hopefully those of you at home may have recognised it does look like a horse footprint, because they are related to the horse. Very closely related to the horse, in fact. They are the same, what we call the genus. So very, very closely related. Just obviously looks quite a lot smaller because they don't have the horseshoes like we put on them. He was standing so still. Is he going to stop? Might do. I think he has stopped. We'll see if we can see him through here. A little steenbok. Now that is exactly what a steenbok does. They wait. He's hopefully going to come out from behind the bush. Can you see his head there? There he is. You see the little horns there of the little male. So they'll freeze, waiting for the predator, hopefully not going to be seen by the predator, but if they think they might be, they wait for the predator to get to them right at the last moment, and then they dash out. And it's that split second of hopefully the predator going, oh, what was that? That gives them that split second chance to get away, and that can mean the difference between life and death. So that is normal behaviour for steenbok and other small antelope and francolins and things like that of the bush. So we're going to carry on this way. I think Tristan might have an update for you. I'm hoping it's good news.
Well, it is good news because it's following the trend that we've been having the last few drives, which is our elephants, and hopefully a leopard will pop out too. So this morning we had leopard and elephants, yesterday afternoon we had leopard and elephants, and now we've got our elephants, so hopefully this will mean that our leopard will come soon. And it seems as though this herd, they're inside Buffelshoek, but they look like they might be coming slowly to the southeast, which is perfect. Hopefully they'll come down to where we are and down to the actual cut line itself, and we'll be able to see them a little bit better than through all of these bushes. Now I'm probably going to have to cross through a little gremlin hollow, so if it does break up a little bit, I do apologize, but we're going to get much better visuals if I go onto the other side. So I'm going to just try and sneak through here quickly. We'll try and kick all the gremlins away. Hopefully the gremlins have migrated like the wildebeest to care and have stayed there, and they'll leave me alone as I shoot through this little section. Apparently, well, that's a surprise, because normally that area is not very good at all. Now I'm going to just get a little higher just so I don't tempt too much fate. Here we go. This should be good. It's not going to be the greatest of visuals because it's going to be very long distance. It's going to be beautiful when they start coming out. So they just stuck behind a bush at the moment, but we've got that setting sun, and hopefully we're going to see them just coming past that bush itself and coming out into the open. They are behind there somewhere. You can just see the head of one of them coming past. So hopefully they'll all start coming out into this big open clearing, and we're going to get a beautiful view of all of our elephants. And a vehicle. So there is a vehicle that is enjoying the Ellies, and why not? It's a spectacular place to see elephants. Open, nice sun setting in the background. It is a wonderful way to spend one's afternoon, and it seems as though they found more water at the dam itself, and that's why they've ended up stopping there. So I'm going to just try and sneak forward slightly, Senzo. So sorry if there's a bit of shake on the camera. There we go. How's that? That's a bit better, I think, Senzo. We can at least see some of them there. So it's a fairly small grouping. It's not a massive herd of elephants, but bigger than what we've been seeing, that's for sure. And it's a herd that I recognize because there's one individual here that has a tusk that grows underneath its trunk. So I think it's the individual on the far right, that one there. There it is. You see the tusk grows slightly underneath the trunk itself. So this is a herd that we do see fairly regularly. They were actually mixed up with a massive herd that we saw in Vutlute Dam or Gari Dam the one day. So they are here fairly commonly, and this is a good sign. If we're starting to see elephants coming back, we've had short trunks herd, we've had this herd, hopefully the next herd that we will find will be the herd with Fang in it. So that would be such a nice way to kickstart this cycle. Like I said, we've had elephants every drive, so hopefully Fang will be an elephant that will show up fairly shortly too. I'm quite keen to see how she is and whether or not she's recovered from her ailment. I'm pretty sure that she is okay, and I have had a number of you asking about Fang, and I really don't have too much more to update, unfortunately. She hasn't been seen, but then again, there also hasn't been any reported female elephant carcasses anywhere, which means that hopefully we will be able to see Fang again at some stage soon. Now, while I just check our elephants and watch them as they slowly drink and watch the sun slowly set, I believe Tara has got an exquisite view of the golden orb as it makes its way down beyond the western hills.
Oh, how's this, hey? Saying goodbye to the sun in such a beautiful and spectacular way. I just love that fiery orange that comes off of the sun this time of day. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. It definitely is, Deborah. Absolutely beautiful. Even weather, so possibly bringing in rain. But we might even start to hear the pearl-spotted owlet that I was trying to imitate earlier. That might start calling, or the Scops owl. I think I did actually just hear one way off in the distance. And we have Craig on board, so hopefully we might even spot an owl. Comment from Joe, goodbye son. There's one or two insects chirping away, but otherwise very still. But as I say, we might be lucky enough to hear lions calling, or hyenas, or leopard as they wake up. Now it's cooler, and they tend to call at night because their calls are going to travel a lot further. So yes, they generally will be sleeping during the day, but sometimes they will be active, depends on how hungry they are. But if they're wanting to find each other, then that's the best time of day, or if they want to defend their territory, it's the best time of day, or should I say night, because the air is cooler, it doesn't have as much energy, so their voice can travel much further than it could in the heat of the day. So I'm hoping we're going to hear some wonderful calls of the bush, maybe even jackal. It'd be lovely to hear them as well. So we'll carry on towards Treehouse Dam. We're going to make another loop back towards Twin Dams and maybe around the drainage line, just see if anyone is waking up now. Angela saying it was so serene. It really was, wasn't it? So some days when we don't have as much in the way of animals going on, it is lovely just to appreciate the nature around us. It sounds like Tristan has still got the elephant, so I think it's definitely worth seeing what they're up to while we still have the light. Enjoy, guys.
Well, any time with elephants is always worth it, Tara, so I'm sure many of you agree. I love spending time with Ellies. It's a pity that they're so far away at the moment. I was hoping they were going to move back towards us, but it seems as though they're just carrying on slowly northwards. You can see one is going along the dam wall. The rest of them are still playing around in the mud and drinking, and they haven't moved too much at all. Oh, wonder what happened there. What did you smell? Clearly something that elephant didn't like at all, because it sniffed at that branch and quickly did an about turn, and now is up on the dam wall itself. You can still see it, look, sniffing around. And it's interesting, there's a very interesting article about somebody that studied elephants in Amboseli National Park. So Amboseli, for those of you who don't know, is in Kenya. It's up on the Tanzanian border close to Kilimanjaro, and it's got a really healthy population of elephants. Well, it did. Unfortunately, those elephants are being persecuted a little bit. But she did a study on elephant communication and how the elephants indicate what's going on and what they're thinking. And a lot of it was actually to do with their feet, which was quite interesting to watch, their feet and the way that their head moves. And so when they're showing a bit of indecision, that's when they'll lift the one foot and it almost rocks up and down, exactly like what she was doing as she went over that damn wall. Her foot was up and she was just rocking it slowly, and that's almost to say, well, I'm not quite sure at this stage where I'm going. And it was a really interesting article. I would love to actually be able to spend enough time with elephants like she did to be able to study all of those things and see if the communication from this area differs to those up in East Africa, and whether or not there's slight subtle changes between the species that we get here. You can also see a couple of guinea fowl lurking around. All the babies are being ushered now away from the water, and it's amazing to actually see that Sydney's dam is almost dry. It's at its lowest point that I've seen it since I've been here. I know last year, I think it did dry up last year, if I remember Brent telling me. But it is definitely drying day by day, and I don't think this dam is going to make it through the winter. By the looks of it, there's enough mud all over there that it's very shallow towards that middle section, and I would think that that's not going to last too long at all. So I'll have to wonder where the elephants will go from there. They do pump water closer towards the camp, which is where we first saw the Ellies, and so I suppose they'll still use that, but there won't be a place to go and swim like we see at Chitwa Dam, which might be a good thing for us. It might suck a lot of the elephants towards Treehouse and Twin Dams and onto towards Chitwa Dam as well. But look, lots of communicating between them. You see when they stick their trunks in each other's mouth, that's all just to talk to each other and to see who everybody is, and it's almost like a handshake for people. Oh, it's a little baby climbing on the back there. Yes, I want to get a view of you as well. Nothing better than playful elephants. I love it when they get like this, when they start mucking about and pushing one another and causing a bit of trouble. It's always the best thing to see. You can see lots of little ones there as well. I wonder where the other one went. The other one seemed to have gone over the back of that dam wall and has left the rest of the herd behind. So it disappeared into that beautiful sunset sky that we have in the background. You can see those beautiful colours that are coming down, and there's the sun is set in the distance behind the gate. So those poles that you see there are for the gate area, and then the Ellies themselves down there. So John, you're wondering about the rains, given that we're looking at a fairly dry dam. Well, the rains should theoretically start end of September, beginning of October. That's when we normally get rains. And this area has basically 2 rain seasons. So we have a situation where we've got rain that comes in our October, November months. And then we have rain that will come in sort of January, February. So there's sort of 2 rain seasons, and sometimes into March. But theoretically, our rain should start in October. Now, last year and the year before, the really bad part about it was that we didn't really receive too much rain in the first cycle. Last year we at least got a little bit in March, or so it's this year, should I say, in March and April. But generally, if we don't get that first bit in October, November, it makes it really tough for a lot of the animals, and a lot of the water holes only started to fill much later and only were filled around March. So it's going to be a tough situation if these again remain low. A lot of these animals are going to have a really tough time and not going to be able to sustain the water sources that they need. Luckily for them in this particular section is that there's a lot of pumped water, and pumped water then makes it much easier for these guys to be able to find water. But you can see they're having a little bit of fun now at the mud itself, so they've decided to leave the water alone and instead are going to have a bit of time in a mud wallow. I wonder if there's going to be some mud being thrown. It seems like a little baby is going to charge the starling. Yes, get away, starling, you're a big threat to my herd. I'm sure the guinea fowls are in for it next, unfortunately, but look how the head is raised. Typical. There we go. Oh, we're going to run to mom. Isn't that cute? They're almost all running up to say hello. That's so cool. They are such amazing animals, and so many little airs and graces about them and little nuances that they have that other animals don't. Really makes it special to spend a lot of time. Now, unfortunately, it sounds like Mvula's tracks just cross over here and head north past Sydney's Dam and into this drainage section to my right hand side, which means that unfortunately for us, no Mvula, which is a bit sad, but it is something that I thought might happen. We were right up on this northern boundary and I didn't expect him to stay that side, and so it seems as though he kind of crossed over and then through, and that's a typical route that he will go. So and we're going to carry on. There's some vehicles now that are parked between us and the Ellies, and well, we don't want to film people without their permission, so we're going to carry on and see if we can't find something else. I think what I'll do is go and check. I'm going to go and try and check, see if the Nkuhuma Pride is maybe moving. So Triple M is where I'm going to go, and let's go across to Tara and see what her plans are for the last little bit.
Welcome back, everybody. So there were people having a drinks break at Treehouse Dam, so we've carried on back towards Twin Dams, and we're going to take I think Twin Dams Road up, maybe the Mawati. We'll see how we go, see if there's any cat movement there. We'll head up past maybe Gowrie Dam and around the back, maybe end up at the Pan, at Gowrie Pan there, just in case maybe we get any leopard activity around there, because I think there was some hyena activity, so there's possibly something going on around the back there this morning, but apparently the hyenas did go further north after that. So I've just thought I shall give you a whodunit So we'll see if you guys can get this. So hopefully you get the idea of the size next to my fingernail there, and I've broken one piece open so you can actually see all the fragments inside, so it's tiny inside. So if you want to join in, who dung it, hashtag Safari Live, Facebook or YouTube for your answers. So we're going to carry on driving while the answers come in, and I'll tell you a bit more about it once they do. I did check the tree actually. We're along the fire break that runs just north of Gowrie, Maine, just to see if the genet was home, and if it is, it's deep inside the hole. So no sign of it. So it is starting to go twilight, so we will get the lights on very shortly and see if we can find ourselves maybe an owl. That'll be lovely. Ooh, people quick off the buzzers. Or on the buzzers. Carl, Jacqueline and Missouri saying Impala. Not quite. It was probably about the right size, but it was nice and round and it was pale in colour. Lovely Laurie and Redwood Villa. Oh, nice mouthful there. Well done, you do get bragging rights. It was indeed a scrub hare. So the reason why it's so pale is because the scrub hare will actually eat its own dung, because they have the same problem as rhinos and elephants in that they have a hindgut fermenting digestive system, so they don't have the four-chambered stomach of the antelope. So all their grass or whatever they eat gets broken down in what is like our appendix. So they actually only have the large intestine, that bit of intestine after the cecum. Remember, the appendix or cecum sits in between the two types of intestine. So you get the small intestine, the cecum, and then the large intestine. So they only absorbs in that large intestine section. So they don't have a lot of opportunity to take in the nutrients. So what they do is they actually eat their dung as soon as it comes out, and they'll do that maybe once or twice, so that they try and get as much goodness out as possible, and then what's left behind is hopefully waste. And it's called coprophagy, just eating your own dung. And zebras actually, the baby zebras will do the same thing. They'll actually eat the mother's dung to get their bacteria that they need in their cecum, so they get it passed on by the mother's dung basically, because they're not born with it. So it's very important for them to eat it. So we're now just at Twin Dams. There's no movement around the water. So I'm looking in the drainage line. See if we can switch off and hear anything. Oh, we've got a little daker just here. So we saw the steenbok earlier, that nice brick red colour. We now have the common or grey daker. It's like common? Who are you calling common? Also a little male. See the straight horns. A little bit bigger and a little bit wider than the steenbok. But no alarm calls. Hi, John. Good question. Why don't the larger animals eat their own dung? They've basically got the body size, so they can take in the very poor nutritional value, poor vegetation, but they can take it in bulk. So they're known as bulk feeders. So that's why they've grown to such enormous sizes, so that they can actually take in, well, like I say, food in bulk. So they don't have to eat their dung. But the scrub hares obviously don't have that luxury. They are still... Oh, okay, I was wondering if we're going to lose you through the dip. So we may have some gremlins back on board. I'm hoping that you're with us again. Fingers crossed.
Well, I hope so, Tara. I hope that you won't be taken by the gremlins and sort of attacked and not hijacked. What would it be? Kidnapped. Kidnapped would be the right word for that. So hopefully that's not going to happen to Tara. It would be nice to see Tara again at camp this evening. Now, we are here on Triple M, just slowly puttering down the road, as I've seemed to have done most of the day today, in search of the Agama Pride. We're just hoping that now, this time of the day, they might wake up and move and decide to start getting going and come out onto Triple M, as they sometimes do. Taylor seems to be the queen of this. She seems to always time it perfectly to catch the Nkuhumas between Simambili and Buffle's hook, so hopefully some of her luck will have rubbed off onto us and we'll get a similar experience this evening. Where they are would be south of us now, so it's not going to be right where we are now. I was thinking that maybe later they'll come this way, but if they do cross, it's going to be a little bit to the south, very close to where we had Mvula this morning. In fact, pretty much in the same direction as where we had Mvula, so hopefully that will happen and we will get them on the road. That would be an ideal situation, because everybody else seems to have given us a bit of a run around today. Now, I've just seen a track there that I want to have a quick look at. What I think is a track, I'm not sure, I might be wrong completely. And I am, so let's not even worry about that. Just a tire print. Sometimes tire tracks really do look like leopard tracks. I don't know why, but there's just a way about them that sometimes when they're a bit obscured, it can be quite tough to actually make out the difference between them and a leopard track, which I know sounds really odd, but it is true. And I do apologize about the bouncing of the camera. If you see the camera shaking and moving, it's not Senzo in the back giggling away and having a little sort of moment with his hands moving all over the place. It is all to do with the fact that we are on corrugated roads, which is, the main roads get corrugated like this because of vehicles going too fast, and vehicles also not driving in 4x4. So when they're not in 4x4, what happens is that the back wheels tend to cause quite a bit of damage to the roads themselves. I'm just trying to see whether Mvula used this road, because he was on that big tree over there this morning. That's where he was left sleeping. So that big tree over there, there's a termite mound at the base of that, and he was left sleeping over there this morning. It is a favorite haunt of his. I've actually seen him eating his porcupines there before. He caught a porcupine once and devoured it, and I've also seen him just resting up there. And beyond that tree is a small pan known as one-eyed pan, which if you are on Simambili's side, then it is absolutely perfect. But if you are here on Djuma's side, it is an absolute nemesis, and I think every guide can attest to the fact that one-eyed pan is not a great place. Now, unfortunately, you're going to be looking at the bush as we go because, well, there's a roadblock that we can't show all of you, so I'm going to try and get round them before we see anything. So you will just have to enjoy the view that is the bush on my right hand side and what Simamili looks like as we go along, and try and bypass our said roadblock that we shall not speak about. Seems like this roadblock has been all over the place in the last few days. Now, while I get past them, and so that we can actually show you, well, there we go, we can show you me now because I've just gone past them. But I believe Tara may or may not have something, but what she doesn't have is gremlins, so let's go across to her.
I wish I had. I thought I could hear an owl, but it was way off in the distance, so I think it was a little barred owlet. But it's quite far, unfortunately. So, come hither! How good are your animal impressions there, Craig? Is there any good animal impressions you can do? Because Senzo did an absolutely amazing lion. Unfortunately, my lion doesn't sound so good. But I did hear the hyenas outside my bedroom window last night, and that was contact call again. They call into the ground to amplify it, so their head's down, but they go woo, woo, woo. And of course they do the giggling when they are excited and they're stimulated, certainly around a kill. They get very excited, and the tail gets raised as well. Actually, speaking of tail, I'm hoping I'm not going to lose you through the dip here. We were asked the other day about why an elephant raises its tail. What actually causes it. Now we know that they do it when they're excited or, again, stimulated, and that actually happens with a lot of animals. So, like the hyena, the rhino, the giraffe, if they're running from something or they're being aggressive, the tail gets lifted. And we've kind of been debating this. I haven't been able to find any papers on it, but we think, we were bashing it out amongst ourselves the other night, and we kind of think possibly because when you're excited or when you're aggressive, your muscles do become tense, and we're wondering if it's almost like a byproduct of that. So the muscles are so tense that it does cause the tail to lift up. As I say, it's a sign that we use to see if the animal's upset, but we were trying to find out the reason why, because the elephant eyesight's not great, the rhinos isn't either, so it's not a sign for other rhinos to see, or to show them that they're not happy. So there's got to be another reason. I think it could be that it's a byproduct of the tension in the muscles. It's the best thing that we can come up with. So I'm hoping whoever sent that question through, I hope you're watching this afternoon. So I did say I was going to try and look it up. Okay, so we're on Twin Dams Road. Not hearing anything in terms of alarm calls or anything. No one's popped out onto the road as yet. I'm not seeing any tracks on the road. It is starting to get a little bit darker. Not dark enough to use the spotlight just yet, but I'll get it ready for when it is. So we're making our way to Gowrie Dam, and we'll make our way round to the back where there's a little pan, and I'm hoping that Shongile, we don't think there's been any tracks that have popped out of that area, so I'm wondering if she has got a kill right in the drainage line. If she is... Hello, mister. Yeah, you're beautiful. You can also see on the male Impala the necks actually start to thicken up slightly as well, and that just gives them a little bit extra muscle for when they're fighting. But certainly during the big rut you see it a lot more prominent than what you do in the slightly shorter rut, which is coming up. Hi Caitlin, age 10, welcome on board. I hope you're enjoying the drive. And Caitlin wondering how long it will be before Shongile has her first litter. So, we have some dung in the road. Now Shongile is about 18 months old. She is capable of having cubs when she's 2. And we know her mother actually had cubs when she was 2 years old. And I think after losing her mum about 6 months ago, they are, as you can see, Shongile and her brother Hosanna are doing well. They're actually able to hunt for themselves, so they are surviving. And leopards can be independent after a year old. So it could be that will actually start them to be looking for mates a lot earlier than maybe leopards who have stayed with their mother for 18 months. So it could well be that's the case. So it might be that she actually has a litter in 6 months' time, or more often it's 2.5 to 3 years that she will actually have the cubs. But it'd be certainly interesting to follow that, and I hope for you guys you do actually get a chance to see the cubs from Shongile, because I think out of every one of Karula's daughters, she's the one that looks very similar to her, because she has what looks to be the wow across her forehead. So it looks like we've got some leopard scat just in the middle of the road there. I was going to bring some gloves to try and pull it apart so we can actually have a look inside. So leopard and lion scat can look very similar. Lion tends to be a lot thicker, and leopard scat tends to be about 2 centimeters in diameter. Now this is quite a dry one. I did see it earlier. I'd forgotten it was. Looks like I'm not going to go and pick it up. You know, I love playing with dung, but you don't go picking up carnivore dung because there is a lot of bacteria that can be harmful. It's just the herbivore dung that I play with. But I definitely don't suggest you guys do it at home. I know what I'm picking up, so you guys, if you don't know, don't pick it up. I'd rather use a stick to open it up and check inside. Now that is a brilliant Google search, Bree. Dung Google search. That's her search history. That is brilliant. I'm well impressed. So I'm going to try and remember to bring some gloves, and we'll break it open, because you can see bits of fur and sometimes bits of hoof and things like that, and try and work out what their last meal was. So we'll try and remember that for tomorrow. But I think Tristan might have been able to fight off his gremlins. We've got quite a gremlin-filled drive this afternoon. All good fun. But let's see what he has got for you.
Well, my gremlins ran away. They had limbs and they decided to run from where I was, so it wasn't so much gremlins then, it was just, like I say, a little blockade of the road. But what we do have, which I've just noticed as we were driving around, which is something that would actually eat what Tara just showed you right now, which I know is pretty gross, but there is something in that tree over there that I have seen eating leopard and lion dung multiple times, and that is a vulture. So that is a white-backed vulture that you're seeing there. Given I haven't seen white-backed vultures do it, but I have seen hooded vultures eating the scat of predators, particularly when it's still fresh, when it's just been sort of released, and especially at a carcass, you'll find that they defecate and then the vultures come and eat it, which is a horrible thought. And behind it is Tara's favorite bird. You can see the fork-tailed drongo also silhouetted against the backdrop with our white-backed vulture. Now that pretty much will be where that white-backed vulture is going to end up spending the night. They like these big open trees where they can have their wings out when they take bushy areas when they roost for the night, and it will spend the night there. It's not a sign that there is any sort of food item there. That's all just to do with the fact that it's a nice open spot and a place that it can spend the night resting. Vultures don't have the best eyesight for nighttime. They've got great eyesight during the day, probably one of the best eyes of all of the animals out here, but not at night, so they tend to rest at night rather than fly about. Now, the reason I know it's a white-backed vulture is not only because of the colours. You can see it's got like a creamy wing with a brown edging to it, but just the general shape of it. Also, that heavy-set beak and that rounded white woolly head is indicative of the white-backed. You have to be a little bit careful because you do get Cape vultures here from time to time. It's very rare to see them, but they do come through. But they would have a honey-coloured eye and not a dark eye. Not that we would be able to tell as a silhouette like this, but the chances of that being a Cape vulture is almost none. It's also a bit of a larger bird than what we see with the white-backed. Riti, you're asking why do vultures eat dung? Why? Well, this is something that I've asked myself, Riti, because I can't understand why you would want to eat the excrement of another predator. And you can imagine, well, if you've ever been anywhere near a zoo or you smelt what lion or leopard dung smells like when it comes out the other end, it is really a very unpleasant thing to smell, let alone eat. So I don't know why they would do it, but actually it's in all likelihood probably to do with just getting nutrients. So it's an easy meal. The lions and leopards probably don't digest every little bit of nutrients from that particular meal that they've had. It's generally, like I said, when they add a carcass, and particularly lions on a buffalo, they consume so much that their digestion works so quickly that there's probably bits of hair and bits of bone and bits of meat that come through that they can then eat and get nutrients out of it. Funnily enough, I didn't really notice it too much in years gone by, but last year it was very prominent that the vultures were eating a lot of the dung, and I wonder if it wasn't to do with the drought in some way, that they were lacking some sort of nutrient, that they were getting it from the actual dung of a predator. It's interesting though. I don't know if there's really an absolute reason for it. Now, there is some traffic behind us that we're going to have to let come past, so I'm going to move past our vulture and carry on a little bit south. Unfortunately, our Inkahuma Pride are sleeping at the moment. They're having a nice big rest. Oh, there's a pity there's a car behind me, because actually I'm going to let them go and see if they can't go, because I think I just saw a track for an ostrich, which we know have been around quite a bit lately. Hello. Straight. You're going to go straight, and then you'll see the little sign to the right. So that's somebody that seems to be a little bit lost at this stage, so we just had to help them with directions. Now, if you can repeat that name for me, Alice, because I didn't pick it up nicely. Rory Kira, you're wondering if we do see ostriches. Well, Rory, they're not common for us. Unfortunately, we're in an area where ostriches don't occur that often, so we don't see them often. But lately, there's been these two male ostriches that are walking around all over the place, and I was hoping that I would find tracks for them here, but it's actually not tracks for them. It's just a smudge in the road, which could have been caused by a rock being moved or something like that, but it had a linear shape to it, which is typically what an ostrich track looks like. Ostrich track looks like this big sausage with a small sausage next to it. That's kind of the shape of the ostrich foot, and little claws on the front. And so we do see them from time to time when we used to traverse on Cheetah Plains. They're fairly common in the winter months on Cheetah Plains itself. I was speaking to one of the guys that drives on Cheetah Plains, and he said he had 6 the other day on the open area together, and so they have been around, and maybe we'll get lucky at some point. I know Taylor's been trying, Ellie's been trying to track them down, and we've seen their tracks all over Djuma, from Vutlute Access to Gari Main to Treehouse Dam. They were all over that area, so it's only a matter of time until we bump into them, but it's not a common species, and the reason why is that ostriches prefer big open spaces. They like to be able to see what's going on because they're hunted by lion and leopard and cheetah, wild dogs. All of these things will go after ostriches, and so when there is a big open clearing, they can then watch any threat that could potentially be around and be able to then deal with it. So these thickets are not generally good for an ostrich well-being, unfortunately. But it would have been nice to see some ostrich tracks. I always like ostrich tracks. They look prehistoric. It looks like a dinosaur walk there. I would imagine that would be something similar to, if it had a third toe, it would be like a velociraptor track. That's what I always think. Now, talking about dinosaurs, there's some birds that are just flown over. Unfortunately, I don't know if we'll be able to get them, but there they go. Well done, Senzo. And those are hardy-dar ibises, which are in my family known as pterodactyls, because they used to sit on the windows at our house in Johannesburg and scream bloody murder from outside at 4 o'clock in the morning and wake everybody up, and they sound just like a sort of nightmarish thing at that time of the day, so that's why we nicknamed them that. I'm a bit worried about Tara though. She's been digging around in lots of dung in the last day or so, and I think we might need to have a word with her. Also, she's far braver than I am. I'm not sure I would want to handle too much leopard and lion scat. I suppose if it's dry it's okay, and working out what they ate would be quite fun, but if it's not dry, that is some really putrid stuff to deal with, and I certainly wouldn't put my hand up to pick up a lion or leopard stool, particularly after a meal. It tends to be quite loose and not very sort of pliable in any way whatsoever. It kind of just goes, well, I suppose pliable is actually what it is. It just goes through your fingers and becomes quite runny, so that's not going to be very pleasant, particularly if they've been eating or had lots of blood in their meal. So rather her than me, but it is fascinating stuff what you can find from dung, and I know Brent has spoken about it a few times, and we collect the dung for a lot of our leopards, and the reason why is because there's this research project going on about the DNA of the leopards and their family histories and family trees, which is all very fascinating, and I really can't wait for that data to be published and we can actually see what really goes on and who the actual fathers are and how this all works and which leopards are tied to which, because we assume a lot. We must remember that male leopard, we might see Tingana mating with Shongile in the future, but then she might sneak off onto Little Gowrie and mate with Quarantine, who knows, I mean another male leopard, and then she gives birth at that time, and we, because we saw her mating with Tingana, immediately assume Tingana, but there's not a sort of impossibility that Quarantine hasn't also been part of that fertilization process. So they believe that multiple males can fertilize an egg, and so you might have a situation where there's a bit of two males that are involved in a litter that is born. So it's interesting, and I really can't wait to read a little bit more about it and hear whether we have any surprises about our leopards in this area and whether some of them are not who we think they are. It would be quite interesting to know. Now I believe Tara has made it towards the hyena den. Hopefully it will be active, and let's go and see what the update is.
Hi everybody, so I'm at the pan actually just behind Voyatella. I was hoping, I was actually chanting leopard, leopard, drinking, drinking as I came through in the hope that that might actually give us a leopard drinking at the pool here, because as I say, I'm kind of thinking that Shongile may have been in this drainage line. We were talking to Rexon as well earlier today, and he also thought the same, because we've not had any tracks of her come out, although obviously there could be something that we've missed. But the last thing that we had here was alarm calls. Shongile actually came down from the north, from the the Tamborti Dam, crossed over onto Mvubu, which is the road just behind us, and then she came across here, and that was the last that she was seen. And then, to say, first thing in the morning we had the alarm calls. So I've been hoping that she's been in the drainage line just in front of us there, between Final Control and the lodge, in the hope that maybe if we keep coming by here we might see her drinking. But it doesn't look like there's anyone even sort of on the tree line there either, or on the Termite Mound, anywhere over there, unfortunately. So unfortunately it looks like our cat luck has run out today, but you never know. We've still got a few moments left of the show, so I'm going to carry on driving. You just never know. We've actually driven around the corner and bam, there's the cat in the road. It can happen. So, and with this being live, anything is possible. So we're going to carry on driving and see if we can find that spotted cat in the last few moments. Ah, that was actually what I was going to say. We did see the saddlebill stork actually fly over towards the dam, and apparently it is on the camera now. So if you're able to have a look at the camera, there is the saddlebill stork. Amazing to see the saddlebill storks over the last couple of days. And I think Craig and Byron had an amazing sighting of a male walking through the bush. We actually had the female fly over. So a stork you don't get a chance to see very often. Well, I was hoping maybe an owl in the tree here. You never know. But I hope you have enjoyed the safari. It may have been a little bit quiet, but hopefully you've had fun. We certainly have. And you've got to see some Ellies as well, and a few small things in the bush, and of course the dung. You guys do so well with that. I'm really impressed. And I think as we come to a close, I just would like to say thank you so much for joining us. And as I say, it's been a lot of fun. And there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, as they say. And I think it's hopeful. We have had a lot of leopard tracks, so they are around. We're hoping that they'll pop out. And as I say, hopefully tomorrow maybe Tristan will have his lucky feeling again, and we'll catch maybe a spotted cat again. Fingers crossed. But thank you for all your questions. Thank you for joining us here on Safari Live. It is wonderful to have you, and I hope you join us again very soon. Our next drive is tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll have the Mara joining at some stage again as well. It's always very special. Thank you very much, and wherever you are, have a wonderful day or night. Bye for now.